Today is my dad's death anniversary, and I would like to honor him because I have witnessed faith in action as a child. I have seen him how he loves the Lord through his action, through his faith. Let me tell about him, who he is, and why I've seen so much of faith in him. He was born in San Miguel, Bulacan, Philippines, and his parents is Don Miguel Siojo and Adelaida de Guzman Siojo. He was born with some physical ailments, like he has asthma, but that didn't deter him from helping other people, even to the point of him having an asthmatic attack. He still thinks of how to help other people, especially during the time that we had a very strong typhoon and flooding in our town. He grew up in a loving family. He was a special child because of his ailment. He likes to do jokes, and he's a very smart guy. He got married to my mother, Lilia Lozentales Gastillo, and we were 7 siblings from their marriage. To fast forward, he's an accountant by profession. I was growing up, we had a hardware and lumber in our backyard, so I always see him and my mother. But what strikes me, and I have observed during my childhood, growing up, was his love for God and family and others. I remember when we were kids, we have these every night or every evening we do our rosary, and he would call the household. We have housemaids and helpers. He would call them so that we can say the rosary. He was there was one time during the Good Friday, as I have mentioned before, we had a Santo Enchero, which he devotedly have a passion. It's singing the life of Jesus to a life-size statue of Jesus. And that time it is done in our house after 3 o'clock. That is the time they bring down the statue of Jesus to the carriage, and I remember there was one point where I think somebody gave the go signal for the other people to bring down the statue of Jesus before 3 o'clock. And my dad got so angry that I can't forget, he said, why are you bringing down Jesus to the carriage when he has not passed yet? Why are you having him pass away? We are having this event, but I always want him to be brought down after he has passed, after 3 o'clock. And I have seen him so mad because he was reenacting with the Passion, reading the life of Jesus. So he would, that was how I saw how faithful he is and how he knows the story of Jesus. And as a child, I have that in my heart. I kept that in my heart. And I know that time, every time my mom would give birth at home, he would gather us and we pray the rosary. And even before the rosary is done, my mom would give birth, except for my youngest, which she said that we had already 3 rosaries and my mom hasn't given birth yet. And lo and behold, my youngest brother that time was, no wonder, he's 11 pounds. So, but my mom was able to give birth without any problem. And it's a miracle for me. Knowing that 11 pounds is so big. I mean, the midwife was probably, he said that he was having was this perspiration, because he was thinking of bringing my mom to the hospital already, because he was having difficulty in birthing. But probably because of my dad's faith in rosary, and was asking my Mother Mary's intercession that my mom would give birth without any problem. And I think it's because of his faith. And my dad also, I've seen him a man with principles. He is, although he's thin and skinny, but he was brave. He was angry with people, even his relatives, who abuse their power to to get what they want, is even if it is against principles. And I know that he is well respected in our town, that because there was a point where we didn't have a gate. In the Philippines, everybody has, like, usually have a gate, a fence around there, but ours, we didn't have that. Because probably they know my dad is brave, and he had guns too. But he stand firm with his principles. There was, during the time, we don't have electricity 24/7, so the image of our Lord in the in a sepulture like case, we always have to have a light, a vigil light, and so it's always it's a gas lamp. This always have to fill it with gas, and whenever there was something amiss, he would always have the helper check, make sure that the lamp is always lighted. And I remember when we were kids, he is a very charitable man. He helps people. Like an example, he would support. I know he has supported one of our neighbors who's very industrious, and who would like to have a bakery, and that is Kuya Pentong. That's how I call him. So what my dad did was, we had empty barrels of gas, for gasoline, and so because we have a hardware in lumber, he helped Pentong to put up a stove where he could bake his bread, and they put that on behind the house. His house is opposite ours. I mean, they have a small shanty house, but on the back, my dad and him made up a stove out of that barrel, a barrel made of iron or steel. And there's also other times when he put up some billiards on the in front of our neighbor's front yard, so that they would have a means of living, to assist in our neighbor's living. So there's like two in front. There was two I think two for each neighbor, the one right in front of us, and that I kept in my heart that how helpful, charitable my dad was. And there was even a time where we have a strong typhoon in the Philippines, and a lot of areas in our town was flooded. And so in that time, with somebody who's asthmatic, and there's this change of weather, they usually have a asthmatic attack. And so that was happening to my dad. We have a oxygen tank there, and he has this we call it shock tong. But in spite of that, he woke us up. Year 7, probably the time we were 6, because there was 7 years between my sixth brother, my sixth sibling, and the seventh sibling, which is John and Julius. And he woke us up, probably the older one, I can't remember, but I just remember that I just found myself riding in one of the trucks, our delivery trucks, and going to this area of flooded places, and bringing people to the shelter. And that, I think we were 3, in one truck. There's 1 or 2 child. I don't know who I was with, but that's how I remember it. And other things that I remember is that I think he has assisted my grandmother in helping put some of their less I would say less fortunate relatives, so basically they're cousins of my dad, to put to school. There are several of them that was put to school, and of course they live with us, and they help my grandmother, who live on the second floor, on the first floor, because we have a 2-story house. And I know when I was growing up, he was very supportive of the community. I know when I was young, there was a youth club, and that time they have this program of folk dancing, and my dad would have them practice in our house, practice in our backyard. Of course, some of my cousins are with it, are member of that too, or his cousins. And I know he also was one of the proponents on having the Lions Club be installed, be organized in our town. And so is the Night of Columbus, to be able to help people to they have outreach programs and things like that. There was even one time, when the construction of the first hospital in our town. It's called San Miguel Emergency Hospital. He was very supportive. He even, to a point where he helped paint the paint the hospital building. And there's one that really stand out to me that time was he organized along with his friends the Saint Michael Male Choir, and they always practice in our town, in our house, because our house was big and it can accommodate the members, and so they practice. I forgot if it's once a week or twice a week, but I do remember they practice there a lot. And I helped my mom and help her to make the ginger tea, because over there it's acknowledged that ginger tea is good for your voice. So we always provide refreshments, and I know they do that in the evening. They even during Christmas and New Year, my dad would have them celebrate they would have some celebration there, and there's some fireworks in our front yard, and so these things I kept it to my heart. Actually, I'm starting to tear up. How nice, how creative my dad was. He, in spite of his ailments, it won't deter him to help other people. There was even one time where he would go the distance to be able to help, and that's why during election time, people from different parts of the town or their we call it barangay captains to come to our house and convince him to become a mayor. But because of his ailment, my mom was so against it. So he will just support. And the last project that he did for my town was put up the Bisig at Diwata Youth Club. One April, early part of April, he told me to go and use our car to invite my friends or the youth that I know to come to the house and put up a youth club. The Bisig at Diwata is Bisig means the strength, the arm, and Diwata is for the girls, it means fairy. Um, so I did, I did go around and was able to invite a lot of my friends to come to the house. And so we did was we were able to organize our town fiesta is May 8th, and my dad was saying that we're always invited to attend a town hall dancing or fiesta, and it's a shame that we cannot invite them because ours we used to have it, but um, it died down. So we were able to put up the organization through his support. He taught us who to go to ask for his sponsorship. We went around town and we have a list. Of course, my mom was with us also in support. And I remember there were some friends of his that are skeptical and who are they are glump. They are saying you won't make it. It's only a month from the town, from the fiesta. So, but my dad was always saying, you can do it, you can do it. And that was around May, is the summertime in the Philippines. And so through his support and kindness, we were able to put up a grand ball. And mind you, we were able to invite live band, that's Mamaril and his orchestra. We were able to put up a formal attire event. And so he is that kind of person. And so I would say he is an example of faith putting in action. That no matter how his health was having problems, he would always think of how to help on the best of his ability. And I remember when I was taking up medicine, and during the time I was in my first year proper, he once told me, and even that same month before he died, he told me, child, when you become a doctor, do not look at how they are or how they're dressed or what's their status in life or how they live their life. Just treat them to the best of your ability. And that sticks into my mind. So that's why when I was doing my internship, clerkship, and I look into my patients as though they are my relatives, like as though they are my grandparents, my uncle, my my aunt, my cousins, my relatives, those that are dear to me, my grandmother, my grandfather, and things like that. So I would say this is really he is really a good example of faith in action. My dad is not perfect. He has some flaws, you know. He would I remember when we were kids, where when we hear him getting angry or getting mad, my siblings and I would start to hide. We would start to hide because like, even if he didn't get angry because of you, but when he pass you and or see you and he sees something that is not right, or the anger, or will be directed to you. So that's why when we were kids, we hide. To each his own. But I really have fun memories of Dad. And actually, he's one of the reason, why, during a time, during my early part of my marriage, it's because of our differences, we have a lot of quarrels. And as I mentioned in my previous video, that there are times that I want to separate, I want to get divorced, I want to things like that. But when I pray about it, then, as I mentioned before, that I get messages in my gut from the Holy Spirit, like, why are you looking for a perfect husband? You're not perfect yourself, But the other thing is, I look up to my father. I was saying, I have fond memories with my dad, and if I count my blessings with my husband, he has good points and bad points, and I have bad points too, and so, but I would it refrained me from doing some drastic action of separation, because I was saying, why will my let my children grow up and not enjoying the love of their dad as I have enjoyed the love and care of my daddy. And one time, a friend of mine, Sister Omi, told me that when I was in the verge, I was driving to the Bear County clerk to get a divorce paper. She said, okay, if you separate and then you remarry, you said that, do you think your next spouse would love your children as much as the real dad loved them? And so that was also a waking call for me. you know. True, there are some differences. There are things that, you know, I like in him and don't like in him. But the same way, there are things that he likes in me and not like in me. So we're not perfect. And so it's my dad. I remember one time, where we were all in Manila, and my mom was as my mom, and my mom is there with us for a while. Oh my goodness, what happened? Why is it that it's not oh, I know now what I'm gonna do. Oh, no, not that one. Hold on. My mom says, I think my mom was 3 days in a row with us in Manila. That's a 2 hours drive. And she says, oh, for sure your dad will be following me here in Manila. And that time there was a storm, you know, and my mom said, and that time also there's no phone that could communicate, that my dad can communicate that he is coming. There was no cell phone yet, and so my mom said, you wanna bet? And so I was telling my mom that, dad would have more sense to stay put in San Miguel than to come here and risk his life. But true enough, by lunchtime, my dad was honking the car by our apartment, and my mom said, you see, your dad cannot stay long without me by his side. That's how he loves my mom, you know. And so he's also a very as I said, he was very musically minded. I remember when we were young during fiesta, and so our house is the second floor. I mean, we live at the second floor of the house, and we have big windows, and he would turn on his stereo with the music on bands, like the band for the fiesta, and he would make it loud so that he said it will give the atmosphere of fiesta in our town, in our neighborhood. And my goodness, it was loud. It was so loud. There was even a time where my dad was like the president of the fiesta committee for a particular year. I forgot the year, but what happens is, because we have a lumber, he put up a makeshift jail in front of the plaza, right in the center of the plaza, where you have a lot of booth that sells food and beer, and so a lot of times there are some quarrels and some fights, and a lot of times there would some injuries, for those people who get too drunk, and so there's always a disturbance, and a lot of people be going at the town plaza every day because there are some games, there's a Ferris wheel, there's some other activities. And so when my dad was the president of the fiesta, he put that cage, and he said that anyone who becomes drunk and starts a fight will be put to jail on that makeshift jail. And lo and behold, the time that he was the president of the fiesta, it was quiet. It was peaceful. There were no drunkards because they don't want to be left in the cage, in the jail, that everybody can see them, that they'll be like a laughing stock for the town people. And so that was a very smart move on my dad. Yeah, so, and I just miss him. Yes, I do. That's why when I was doing this, I was preparing for this, it was bringing tears in my eyes. And that's how I really miss him. And I know with all his imperfection, I know my dad is in heaven. Even though he's not perfect, he has shown me how to put faith in action. He was a doer, not just a bystander. He did small acts of kindness and grand gestures of kindness. He does try to do good in all circumstances. Even when he is very sickly. He tries to do good at all times. And I remember he's quite a joker too, because one time I was eating a very delicious dish, and I was really on the bone. I was trying to get, everything, the ligaments and everything, and even the marrow, and then he sat beside me and looked at me with his one arm on his jaw, looking at me. He says, "Child, have pity on our dogs. Leave some meat for them to chew on." Because in the Philippines back then, we don't have dog food. We have the leftovers we give to the dogs, and some rice. And I don't know what happened then, but I know it that stick into my brain, my heart, because I think I just laugh or something, or it must have stopped me from trying to get all the meat from the bone. And there was one time another joke or anecdote I have in my dad is, I love to scrape off leftovers from the pan, or when my mom does bake, I like to scrape from the 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 leftovers in the by the foil or the by the pan. Anyway, so I was scraping the pan, and it's I think I was creating loud noise, or how it is when you scrape the pan. And so he said told me again, child, okay, make it louder, make it louder, so that so that the neighbor will know that we have nothing to eat. That's why you're scraping the pan. Yeah. So it was when I remember that, it really makes me smile and laugh. And a lot of times I reminisce that, you know. Um, so he does some good. So there are many ways to do some good within our circles of influence, as what my dad did. Acts don't have to be big to be meaningful. Sometimes the smaller the better. The key is to act. While this list is just a springboard for our own ideas, here are some small ways we can begin today to do some good around others. Love and serve your family. All the good we do starts at home. Meet your neighbors. Volunteer at your child's school. Share a meal or treat with someone. Volunteer within your church organization. Make the phone call. Write a note. Share your faith with someone in need. Keep your eyes open and act on impressions. It doesn't matter how big or small the act. Put your faith into action and go and do some good today. That is according to Tiffany Tolman, faithcounts.com. And there's several scriptures that it says in James 2:17, in the same way, faith by itself, if it's not accomplished by, is dead. That is according to Rex Rawls of faith must be put in action for it to come alive. Now I recall several of Mother Teresa's quotes about helping other people. And he says, the world is full of good people. If you don't find one, be one. So true. And here's another one. Faith in action is love, and love in action is service. And that's what I saw with my dad. And she says, a sacrifice to be real must cost, must hurt, must empty ourselves. The fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. And the fruit of love is service. And the fruit of service is peace. This is the story of my dad. My dad wasn't perfect, but he tries to serve God through his action. I miss you, Dad. I really do. And I love you so much. So, I know my dad loves to sing also and loves to dance. He was really quite a dancer. When he dances, he really feels it, like, like especially when he's dancing cha-cha, he would close his eyes and really feel the music. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. Thank you, and